So the Talmud says they didn't show the proper respect for one another. They were all great. I'm great. You're great. We're all great. So why do I have to respect you? You're the same as me. So God said, Torah can't continue through those types of people, and therefore they all had to die. And the lesson really is fantastic, right? It's not only how they treated others, but perhaps it's how they thought of themselves. And I could be a humble person. I'm allowed to know and recognize that everything I have and whatever I got is all because God gave me those abilities, and I use those abilities very good. But my talents are from God. But I got to know that I'm a good person. We're going to talk about this. We have some amazing stories about this later today. If you think you're a shlemazel, I'll treat you like a shlemazel. If I see in you goodness and greatness, like if I see that you feel about yourself that you're a great person, not in a haughty way, but you have self-worth. If you know yourself, you have self-worth, I'm going to treat you that way. Right? Look, I'm in people's offices all the time, students, children, fundraising. So people around me generally do not curse. I never told them that they can't curse, but that's just the way it is. I'll be in their office, they'll be on the phone, they'll talk like a truck driver, then they'll apologize. Ooh, the rabbi is here. I didn't say anything. But you look at me and you know that this is not how I talk. And since you know by looking at me, you can see that I don't talk that way. So now you're embarrassed, right? So I think if we just look at ideas, how we are in an office, how we are with people, spouses, you're going to be treated the way you feel about yourself. That seems to just be the way it is. And it really carries on through the destruction of the temple till now. Why was the temple destroyed? We've talked about it multiple times, because there was this baseless hatred that one Jew had towards another, jealousy, whatever it was, but they hated. There was a hate. So what happens? You have your average person. I think a lot of us, to a certain extent, may be this way. We have to be careful about it and focus on it, but think about it. In my situation, it's with being religious, but you could find all kinds of examples. So if you're less religious than me, I'm better than you. You're just, you're barely like a Sabbath observer. You're a rookie, right? You're a beginner. I have knowledge. And if you're more religious than me, you're a fanatic, right? Instead of looking at each person for the good that's within them, I find my spot, and my spot for me has to be perfect. And you're either less than me, and then, so what are you? And if you're more than me, I got to knock you down. And that is going to get us into, we're going to leave this thought now, that just to get us into what happened during that time with the great Rabbi Akiva. Perhaps not only was it a problem they didn't respect each other, but maybe they didn't even respect themselves, right? And since they didn't respect themselves, so I'm not looking up to you, I'm not looking up to myself, I have no self-worth, you have no reason to respect me, so what am I? Right? Again, it becomes a very fine line. I'm supposed to be humble, but I'm not a doormat. And that, I think, is what a lot of people have to recognize. I don't have to walk around that I am the greatest thing since sliced bread. But I'm not a doormat. And you have to treat me with a certain amount of respect. It'll happen in people's houses. Do children respect their parents? I don't know. Do they respect themselves? Right? It's all encompassing. Right? We want our children to respect us. I told my class, I said, you'll find that when you start to respect adults, It's like I said, it's a good trick. You start to respect adults, all of a sudden the adults will start respecting you. Why is it that way? I said perhaps they think you're more mature. Perhaps they think you're big. I don't know. It could be a bunch of reasons. But I respect myself. You're going to respect me. Oh, now I see you're a person. Now I'm going to respect you. So there's a lot of stuff that's going around in circles over here. We'll let it bounce around because we're going to come back to it. So this week's Torah portion is the Torah portion of Kedoshim. Kedoshim means holy. So I was asking my class, what does holy mean? And they're little, so they haven't really studied this Torah portion. They just hear me talk about it. Happens to be one of those Torah portions with, and it's not the most, but from the largest Torah portions, it's not verse-wise. It's a pretty small Torah portion verse-wise. It's a very large Torah portion as far as commands. Negative, positive, tons of stuff. So the Torah portion starts out saying that you have to be holy. So I asked my class, the Torah portion starts out, you got to be holy. Moses is talking to the Jewish people. What makes someone holy? So it's amazing. You start asking around. Oh, keeping the Sabbath. I said, no, that's not the one on the list. Holidays, Yom Kippur. Somebody wanted to say tefillin, tzitzis. They really had no idea. Like, sometimes it's just a great question. And it's interesting, most of the Torah portion is dealing with commands between people, not between me and God. Holy person prays all day long, studies all day long. I mean, that may be true. It may be that same person, right, is holy, right, and does a lot of other stuff as well. But when the Torah asks me to be holy, holy really a lot of times means to separate myself out, to be better. But the examples that the Torah wants are through the commands of one person to his friend. We are all familiar, I hope, if you've been listening to enough shows, right? The great Hillel. Yeah, there were three people that approached him, it seems around the same time period. And one of them says, I want you to teach me the whole Torah while I'm standing on one foot. Hello. 613 commands. Even if I tried to teach you how to keep kosher, it's not a 5-minute conversation. Sabbath, holidays, there's so much. How am I supposed to teach you everything on one foot? Like, it's impossible. So the great Hillel says, no problem. Ready? So the guy says, okay, gets up on one foot. And the great Hillel says, what's hated to you, don't do to your friend. Okay, put your foot down. That's it. See, everything else is just explanation. Now, at first glance, when you look at this, it would seem Hillel's only covering half the Torah. I don't want to say half, I'm not exactly counting. But we have two categories. We have the between man and God, and we have the category man and his fellow man. So if I tell you what's hated to you, don't do to your friend, right? And you start thinking about it, that just covers so much, right? Just so much, so easy, right? You don't want someone to start up with you. You want someone to be honest in business with you. You don't want someone to slander you. You want someone to be kind to you. You want someone to visit you if you're sick. You want someone to lend you money. It's easy. It's so easy. But that only covers half. What about the part between you and God? So one of the explanations they happen to say is that God's your friend. So don't you think you should find out how your friend wants you to treat him? But even beyond that, it would seem that when the person was asking Hillel this question, he wasn't just a guy, walking down the street and thought this was like a cute idea. Actually, this person was coming to Hillel very intelligent, maybe even a little philosophical. And he said, I want the Torah on one foot, meaning there's two legs to the Torah, to keeping commands. There's the part with God, and there's the part with another man, my interpersonal relationships. I just want you to teach me the part between me and God. I don't want to hear the other part. So Hillel said, stand on one leg. Right? The guy said, I'll stand on one leg. So Hillel's telling him, it's all one and the same. You think that there's two separate parts to the Torah? It's all one. Your interpersonal relationships, how you treat your fellow friend or enemy, but how you treat your fellow man is part of your relationship between you and God, and that's what will make you holy. As by being a good person, that actually is putting you on the path. That's what the Torah wants from you, to be a holy person. It's very interesting. In the time of King Achav, he was a pretty wicked king. His wife was Jezebel, a real wicked guy. He was responsible for idol worship all over Israel. Yet, he basically conquered the world, whatever the world means. But he was in control of the world. How do we know? Because he was looking for Elijah, and he sent messages to each country. If you find him, you send him to me. Hello. Even if we have a treaty, I don't have to waste my time. I certainly don't have to listen to you. The only way I have to listen to you is because you're in control of my country. And nobody tattletaled. None of the Jews that knew where he was tattletaled. So it says because the Jewish people were friendly with each other, didn't slander each other, didn't tattletale on each other, that was good enough that they deserved to be very powerful. On the other hand, King David still was at war with neighboring countries, because in his times, people weren't so good with each other. There were tattletales. There were slanderers. So the keeping, right, the Jewish people being as one, being together, taking care of each other, is what makes us special, and that's where this idea of holiness comes in. So now I want to sort of dive into it. I tell my class, there are so many commands in this week's Torah portion, like you don't even know where to start. But I'm going to start with these three because it came up a fascinating question in class. So the Torah says it's a forced tax. It's not exactly a tax. It's more of a forced charity. And that is, if I'm a farmer, now again, nowadays we have vacuum cleaners and combine machines to take all the grain, right? Not, God forbid, one kernel should fall down. But certainly in those days, you had to have people by hand, and they would grab the bundle, and they would cut the bundle and tie the bundle and move forward through the field, and that's how they would gather all the grain. Now, it's impossible while you're cutting with your sickle and tying up the bundles that stalks are not going to fall down as you're moving through the field. So the Torah says those stalks that fall down don't belong to you. You have to leave them for the poor person. That's a forced tax. We don't know how much that's going to be. Now, truthfully, it's only every time you make a cut, it's only if one or two stalks fall down. If 3 stalks fall down, you're allowed to bend down and pick it up. That's the rule. 1 or 2 fall down, you have to leave it for the poor person. More than 2, 3, then you're allowed to pick it up. So the Torah says at the end of this verse that you have to leave the stalks that fall. We're going to see the next example in a second. You have to leave it, and you'll fear God. Well, why do you have to say you'll fear God? Because how do I know? I'm watching the harvesting process go on, and the harvesters are busy chopping away. And I see 3 stalks fall down. How do I know what happened? Did 3 really fall down? Or really 2 fell, and he saw 2 were falling, he let a few more fall. That way he can gather them all up. How do you know? You don't know. Only God knows. So a boy in class says to me, and we've really answered already, but the boy in class says, how do you show you fear God? How do you show you fear God? So I told him, I said, the only way to show you fear God is in a story like this. How do I know if really 3 stalks fell down, or it was 2 stalks and you dropped another one because you don't want to give anything to the poor guy? No one could tell. No one knows. Only you know. You know, and God knows. Fearing God means that when I'm dealing with my fellow man and I could get away with it, what choice do I make? If I listen to God, that's one choice. I could choose not to listen to God. Now, why do I think it'll help me make more money? I think I need these extra couple stalks. I think that will make the total difference in everything. I mean, it's you could think that way. It's kind of silly, right? Now, God's going to take care of you how much you're supposed to earn. So you playing around to get a few more stalks is costing you at the end of the day. But the bottom line is that when the Torah is giving examples in this week's Torah portion of what does it mean to fear God, the examples of fearing God is how you act when you relate to another person. And the only one who knows is God. That's called fearing God. That brings us back to the beginning of what we started out with today. You got to be holy. Well, the idea of holy is to fear God. How do I demonstrate, even to myself, how do I demonstrate that I fear God? Because when there's a question of if it belongs to me or if it belongs to the poor person, do I take advantage of the situation or do I make sure the poor person gets what's coming to him? It's amazing. Now, there's two other examples in this verse. One is called shikha, once we're talking about this forced tax. One is called forgetting. So in other words, after we bundled, we have all these bundles in the field, right? Thousands of bundles in the field. And now the workers have to gather up the bundles. They'll bring them to a central area of the field, and that's where they're going to start the threshing process. We got to knock the kernels off the stalks, and then we're going to have to throw the stalks in the air and let the wind blow them away, and let the kernels come down. That whole process. So when I'm gathering up the bundles, it could happen that I left a bundle behind me. So here's the deal. If I forgot it, I just forgot about it. I'm gathering everything around me, and I forgot that one behind me. If I forgot it, I have to leave for the poor person. If I didn't forget it, but I can only hold so much, so I can go back and take it. How do you know? How does the poor person know? Don't take that. Don't touch that. You think I forgot it? I didn't forget it. Maybe. Maybe, yeah, maybe not. We really have no way of knowing. God knows, and you know. And one other case is a forced tax. The farmer has to go ahead and leave a corner of his field, about 2%. A corner of his field has to be left there's such a word, unharvested. Because he can't harvest it. And the poor people come themselves and chop it all up, and they take it home. So that's not actually in this verse with fearing God, because there's no one to fool over there. Like either you left it over, you didn't leave it over. But all these three things are fascinating, right? Because I'm trying to make money. I'm trying to gather in the kernels from my 6 months or whatever it is of hard work of planting and plowing and hoeing and watering and all the things I do to make sure my field grows properly and keeping away the locusts and who knows what. I guess those cicadas are coming. I'm not sure if they, cicadas maybe, how would I pronounce it? I'm not sure if they devour crops. But in any case, the farmer's giving away a lot of stuff. Right? It's a forced tax. Stalks that fall, bundles that I forget, corner of the field. How am I supposed to make money? So this is all part of Vereis Lekecha. God says, this is what I want you to do. So you can imagine that God has it all planned out. If you do what he asks you to do, you're going to make a lot of money. If God wants. And if you don't want to do what God wants you to do, what makes you think you're going to make more? Like, why do you think that? Like, did you become smarter than God all of a sudden? Let's give another example. So a person has to have honest weights and measures. Again, in those days, you had your scales, so you put your weights on one side, and then you put the produce on the other side, and you could tell, or you had a measuring cup, or however they did measuring. So it's the same thing. It says you gotta fear God. It seems from the Talmud that if I have this piece of metal, like I stick it in salt or something, it seems the weight gets a little heavier or it gets a little lighter, depending what makes it better for you. So no one knows if you played around with a weight. How's anybody supposed to know? You know, right? You know if you're being honest with the weight or not honest. Look, I mean, the government tries to make a big deal. I was in a gas station one time, and it seems the state people came and the gas station guys, it kills them. These guys come in and they're pumping and checking, and if you're off by even the tiniest drop on the gallon, they give you a fine so big, all the drops you made by mistake is in the garbage. They could put you out of business. They are really tough. But and you see in the stores, they have all those little stickers that say officially somebody verified the weight. Some places even give you a little bit extra just to make sure that it's clear. It's a big deal. So a great story that I saw. There was a baker that would buy butter from the milkman. And it came to a point where he wasn't so trusting. He said, I think this milkman is not giving me the full weight. Each of these blocks is supposed to be a kilo. I wonder. So he started going. He went to his machine, started weighing things down, and he saw 950, 900, 850. It was never a full kilo. So he said, "That's it. I'm going to get my money back. I'm going to get this milkman. I'm going to give him what's coming to him." So he took him to court, and he's in court, and the judge says to the milkman, he says, "Look, he's been weighing your kilos of butter, and it's not a kilo. That's illegal. You're not honest. We'll put you out of business." So the judge says to the milkman, says, "I can't understand. I'm very honest. I make sure every morning that I look at my scale and I make sure I give exactly a kilo." "How do you know? How do you know you're giving a kilo of butter?" So I tell you the truth. I take the kilo loaf of bread that the baker, I buy from the baker. I put on one side of the scale. I put the butter on the other side of the scale. And I say, "Okay, is it even? If it's even, it's a kilo." And the judge turns to the baker and says, So how much does your bread weigh?" Right? So, right? Who are we really cheating? Right? And there goes the music. So therefore, we will end it as always short and sweet. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to all the responsive listeners. I can't do it without you. Thank you to my production team. I have Ellen in the back today. I hope I've left you some food for thought. Until next time, I am Rabbi Tzvi Jacobson. You've been listening to NRM Streamcast. And until next time, don't forget to think about it.
You may ask, how did this tradition get started? I'll tell you. I don't know. But it's a tradition. And because of our traditions, every one of us knows who he is and what God expects him to do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Talk Torah. I am Rabbi Tzvi Jacobson with the NRM Streamcast, and we'll spend our time talking Torah, learning stuff, and having fun while we learn. You can always send your questions and comments to our mailbag at letstalktorah@gmail.com, and of course, I will answer as many as I can. And of course, the all-important webpage, letstalktorah.net, letstalktorah.net. You can find the old shows, the new shows, leave comments, leave questions, and you can hit that donate button. And that is amazingly important to us because that helps us pay for what we do around here, helps you to continue to enjoy all the wonderful shows that get produced from NRM Streamcast. And please touch that button. And there's different categories, whatever works for you. And in advance, of course, we thank you. So this week's Torah portion, packed to the gills, just packed with different commands. Most of them we said in the last show, a lot of interpersonal stuff. And it gives us a feeling of how the Torah expects us to treat our fellow man. And that's what we talked about in the last show. That's what makes us holy. That's what makes us special. It's how we treat other people. And sometimes maybe treating other people it is automatically leads to you and God. Maybe not everyone will agree with that. I'm not sure. In any case, we have the famous Hillel, right? Who says, what's hated to you, don't do to others. If you don't like it, don't do it to other people. So you have the famous Mishnah in Avos. And it talks about, there's a discussion, what's the best character trait or the best attribute, and what's the worst. Most of them are opposites. Not all of them. There's one that seems to be not opposites, but we're just going to talk about two that are extremely similar. Very, very similar. One is the best attribute is to have a good heart, and the worst is to have a bad heart. Then there's a different idea, but seems very similar. And one is to have a good eye, and one is a bad eye. So you got to wonder, right? Good heart, eye, I look, heart, I feel. What exactly is the difference between a good heart and a good eye, or a bad heart and a bad eye? So I saw fascinating from Velio Dessler. He says like this. He says, a person with a good heart. Now, I think a lot of us feel we fit into this category. I hope the good heart is easier, believe it or not, than the good eye. A good heart means that a person wishes good on everybody. I hope good stuff happens to you. I'm happy that you're successful. I'm happy for you. That's the good heart, right? So what's the opposite? Either when I see something goes well for you, I'm happy for you. So what's the bad heart? That when I see something good going for you, I'm unhappy. I didn't really do anything to you personally, right? It's, we may never even see each other. I may walk down the street and see you live in a mansion and see you drive a beautiful car. And I'm a jealous kind of person. Now, a bad heart seems to be focused in on jealousy, right? So I care about you, or I don't care about you. I may not even know you, but I can be happy for you. That's the good heart. I can be happy with other people's success because the truth is, in general, somebody else's success has nothing to do with me. So being happy for the person, being jealous of the person, neither one is going to help me. If I'm happy for you, I'm not getting a better job. If I'm jealous of you, I'm certainly not getting a better job. So it's almost like, I don't want to say live and let live, but almost. It's a little bit better than live and let live, but I'm happy for you. That's a good heart. And I'm unhappy when you have success. So inside, I'm a rotten person, and I may be a bitter person, and nobody likes hanging around bitter people. However, the good eye is fascinating. The good eye is that not only am I happy for you, but I'm going to ensure that good is happening for you. Whatever the situation is, you need someone to put in a good word to the boss. I put a good word to the boss. You need someone, you need a connection, you need help, right? People call up all the time. People say, can you speak to this person for me? So I'm doing a favor for you? I should do a favor? I need to do a favor for myself. No. You need a favor. I'm very happy to do a favor for you. And maybe I'll even follow up on that favor. Anything to make sure that things go well for you. Hopefully, we do that all the time. But here's the really rotten guy. The bad eye. The bad eye is, it's not that I'm jealous. Not just that I'm jealous. A bad eye is, I need to destroy you. I can't, not only I'm upset that you're successful, but I will make it my business to make sure that you suffer, you fail, you do not succeed. It's a very interesting way of the Mishnah and following Hillel and not hating your brother. The Torah says in the pasuk, it says, "Don't hate your brother." Right? In other words, you want to be a good person, be happy for people's success. You want to be even better, help people, lift up people, which is something I really want to talk about. The verse says, "Don't hate your brother. Rebuke him if he's doing something wrong, and love your friend like yourself." So, first of all, you have to understand how rebuke is supposed to work. Rebuke, in Hebrew we call it musar, that if a person does something wrong, I'm supposed to correct him. As parents, we do it all the time. Sometimes we do it too well. As teachers, we do it all the time. You see somebody do something wrong, you inform that student what they're doing wrong. But there's really two ways of going about it. And of course, you could see your neighbor doing something wrong and it just gets you angry. If you're angry, forget about it. You shouldn't do anything when you're angry. An angry person cannot accomplish anything good. It just doesn't work. But forget anger. I see a student do something wrong. He's calling out in class. He's not letting me teach. He's bothering the student next to him. He's copying from what he's doing. So what is my reaction? So am I reacting that I caught you? Rotten guy what you are, I caught you? Is that my goal? Or I want to help you be a better student. I want to help you that the class can function, where we can all enjoy the classroom. What is my goal? And I think really we can even crystallize it. This is what I was talking to my class a lot about this week. The verse says you have to rebuke and you have to love your friend. So that means that the two go hand in hand. When I'm rebuking you, I have to love you. If I can't love you when I'm rebuking you, I can't give you a rebuke. Total waste of time. If I can't love you while I'm telling you how to improve, it's not, first of all, it's not going to work. And that's not what the Torah wanted. We talk about, I tell my class a story all the time. Imagine we're going on a big yacht. Everybody has their own room. And one boy brings his big drill. And he's so excited. He goes to his room and he starts drilling a hole in the bottom of the boat. And somebody says to him, "What are you doing?" He says, "It's my room." "No, you can't drill. We're going to all drown." Now, even in that case, which most people can understand, generally we use it to say that we're all one. We're going to talk about this later. That we're all in this boat together. So what one does affects the others, right? We're going to get into that. But even here could be a classic case of when I'm rebuking the guy with the drill. What's my intention? What do I have in mind? What am I thinking? Do I want to say you're a rotten guy? Or do I want him to be better? What am I trying to do? So the idea is like this. The idea is, if my goal is to make you a better person, if I'm lifting you up, I'm rebuking you out of love. It's automatic. If I'm trying to make you better, that's love, because I care about you. It's all you. The word hav, by the way, in ahav, which means love, is the language of giving. So I am giving to you. I'm trying to help you. Now, it's true in all rebuke, I am trying to help you. The only question is, what am I thinking? Right? What am I trying to accomplish? So again, if I'm trying to lift you up, I'm giving, I'm trying to help you, nothing to do with me, then that's beautiful rebuke. That's beautiful. If I'm giving you the rebuke because I want to push you down, I need to show I'm better than you, right? I caught you. right? That is not love. And that's not rebuke. So I was explaining this in my class, and probably this fits right into where people talk about narcissism, is almost where this comes in, right? Am I lifting myself up, right? When I'm telling you did something wrong? Or am I trying to lift you up? Right now, you don't know how to do this properly. I'm trying to make you a better person. Now, I can assure you, and I think that's why there's a lot of confusion with that, with what people call a narcissist. The narcissist will probably tell you, I just want you to be a better person, right? So he's claiming he's giving. But I think most of us, not always, sometimes in class, the children may not get the message the right way. In which case, you have to figure out how you're giving over the message. If you're yelling and screaming like a maniac and your face is bright red, probably you're giving it over the wrong way. If you're yelling and screaming at your children and calling them names and saying how rotten they are, probably you're doing it the wrong way, right? So it's not only that I have to lift you up and not just try to put you down and lift myself up, but while I'm lifting you up, you need to be made to feel that I still love you. I could be calm. I don't have to be yelling and screaming. I can get my message across, right? So all this is really very important to how the Torah wants me to relate to another person. Person's doing something wrong. The Torah wants him to improve. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe he doesn't realize. Half the time we get the story wrong. Maybe you got the story wrong, and you think you're supposed to tell him what he's doing wrong when really you're the guy doing it wrong. And hopefully he'll tell you back. But in any case, I have to lift you up, and I have to do it in a way that you feel that you're being lifted up. Like I can even tell you, even in class they do this, by the way. Even in class, where if I tell somebody they're doing something wrong, and especially certain children, that this is just something that happens more often, those children need more help, I'll tell them. I say, nothing to do with me. Doesn't matter to me. But I don't want you to get to an older grade and someone's going to say, how come you didn't know that this was, inappropriate behavior? I want you to know how you should act with friends. I want you to know what's considered appropriate or not appropriate. Not for me. But it doesn't matter to me. You can do whatever you want. Right? But I want you to know what's expected, how you're supposed to behave, what will make you a better person. When you explain it that way, or however you like to explain it, so it has nothing to do with me. I'm not insulted. You didn't hurt my feelings. I'm not angry at you, because any of those cases, that rebuke, for the most part, is a total waste of line. Oh, total waste of time. Sorry. Talking about people, very interesting verse, and there's a lot of laws about it. By the way, it says "Lo yisamoid al dam reacha." Literally, do not stand on the blood of your friend. It's the first and automatic meaning is that if you see a person in danger, you got to take care of them. You can't ignore. Somebody's drowning. Now, if you don't know how to swim, you can't do anything. But if you see someone in danger, you got to help. Now, interesting enough, it's juxtaposed with the verse about slander. It's called Rechilus, really, which is, but it's really referring to slander. So even though the Torah tells me I cannot slander somebody, but if someone's going to get hurt, right, I don't get to say, oh, I can't tell because it's slander. The guy's going to get hurt. I must tell him, which is the famous story of Gedalia ben Achikam. Gedalia was the governor of the land of Israel after Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the temple. So he didn't want to leave the country to get totally destroyed. So he left a bunch of Jews in charge. They'd plow the fields. They'd keep the fields going. He wouldn't let the wild animals come. Otherwise, the country would just turn into swamps. So Gedalia was informed that somebody wanted to assassinate him. He was a big rabbi. He said, no, Lashon Hara, I don't want to listen. And he was assassinated. Right? In other words, you can't let your friend get hurt. So in a case where you see someone's going to get hurt, you have to find a simple, clear way to protect them. Talking about that you have to make sure people don't get hurt. I saw a great story. So Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld lived in Jerusalem in the first part of the 20th century. So on a normal morning, he would go to prayers, come home, get breakfast, and then they would go to study. But this morning, he didn't come home for breakfast. So the family was getting a little nervous, like, what happened? Where'd he go? So they sent out a search party. So one of his daughters sees he's by the well. I'm assuming this well was like a hole in the ground, and there was a way to pump the water out or take the buckets to get the water out. It wasn't a well-protected well. Well-protected well. It's not the way I meant it, but yeah. It was dangerous. And she sees her father, putting down the bucket, picking up the bucket, and they were like these two young children, and they were like a bucket brigade. So you give the full bucket to one, and that one would take it home, and the other one would come back with an empty bucket, and he'd fill up that bucket, and this was going back and forth for a while. So the daughter said to her father, she says, what are you doing? So he said, well, I was on my way to prayers, and I saw these two children by the well. Now, that's very dangerous. Children are not supposed to be by these wells. They could fall in. It's very dangerous. So I asked the children, I said, don't you have a water carrier? Don't you pay the water carrier to deliver water? So they said, no, we're very poor. So can't your parents get the water? Our father is ill. Our mother just had a baby. There's no one to take care. So he says, what choice did I have? I can't leave these children here. So I said, I'll just have to do prayers later, and I'm filling up the buckets for these two children. So then his daughter says to him, that's just the first part of, right, don't stand on the blood of your friend. But this takes it to the next level, and that's all what we're trying to talk about today. When we talk about how we relate to other people, you got to use intelligence. You got to be a person. So the daughter says to her father, to this Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, she says, but father, you are a great Talmudic scholar. You are the biggest rabbi in Jerusalem. It is beneath your dignity that you should be, pulling water out of the well. So the father says to his daughter, you're right. You're right. But what choice did I have? What would heaven say about me if I went home for breakfast and neglected these two children? Right? So, yes, talked about self-worth earlier. Right? It's true that sometimes there are certain jobs that maybe are not for everybody. Right? We wouldn't expect, the president of the United States to start picking up garbage from the floor. I understand. There are things beneath a person's dignity. I get it. Right? But sometimes you got to look at the whole picture. And if your dignity is such that you can't help somebody who falls down, person trips, falls on the floor, no, I can't help the person up. It's beneath my dignity. What, you're going to leave the person on the floor? You're just going to go home? Pretend nothing ever happened? Like, what kind of person are you? How can you do that? So that's just a beautiful way of understanding even this idea of not standing on the blood of your brother, right? There's levels here. How far does it go? We got to figure this out. Now, we're talking about love your friend like yourself. So the question becomes, most people, I'm okay with loving like myself. Most people are pretty good. But what do you do when you have that real wicked person? What if in Congress there's a self-hating Jew and he will do anything to put Jews down? you gotta love that person also? Like, how am I supposed to love that person? He hates me. He hates what I believe in. What do I care about him? Let him drop dead. So, very interesting. And this goes back to our story with the boat, right? Shmelko Nicholsburg explains like this. He said, if you could realize, if you could understand, if you could know that all the souls of the Jewish people are all one. We're all one big soul. Yeah, we're broken into a bunch of pieces, but we're really all one. We're like one body, right? So what happens, right? Let's say a person, he bangs into a wall, hurts his finger, breaks his finger. My son was taking the Passover stuff up and down the stairs for us last week, and he broke his big toe. So your toe now hurts you, right? So you're so angry that your toe or your finger that you just broke is hurting you, so you're going to take a hammer and you're going to bash that toe to teach it a lesson. Or you're going to bash that finger or cut off that finger to teach it a lesson. What are you, a fool? Right? Like, this story is so, like, incredulous, doesn't even make sense. So on my own body, if something gets hurt, something is bothering me, it hurts, I'm not cutting it off. It's my body. So just because not every Jew is acting the way you would like, doesn't mean, I mean, honestly, do you hate your finger? Do you hate your hand? Do you hate your foot because you got a stone in your shoe and now your foot hurts and now you're hobbling or you twisted your ankle? You don't hate your ankle. That's ridiculous. So that's just, if we could have such a mindset, the world would be a better place. Yeah, we don't all see eye to eye. I don't like how you're acting, but I don't have to hate you for it. I don't like how you act. I don't like what you're doing, but I don't have to hate you. Right? It's a very, very big difference. Interesting. It says you can't take revenge, you can't bear a grudge. So the examples are very fascinating. What does it mean you can't take revenge? So a good example is, I came to your house to borrow a shovel. You said no. You come back to me a few days later for a rake, and I say, you didn't lend me a shovel. I'm not lending you a rake. Torah says that's revenge. The grudge is a little different. You don't lend me a shovel. You come to me the next day and say, can I borrow a rake? And I say, sure, because I'm a nice guy. I'm not like you, because you don't lend your shovel. Now, I told my class, I said, if you don't lend something to somebody, you're allowed to explain. My mother doesn't let. Last time I gave it to you, it came back broken. You're allowed to be honest when we talk about why I could lend you, why I can't lend you. But if I think it's my job to be the executioner, that you can't do. We can't get more into this. The music is playing. I hope you enjoy.